The November 2024 update was released around 2 weeks ago, around the 7th of November 2024, and is considered a minor update. However, some questionable choices were made. This is for 7 days, a series where I give my first impressions on the first week of a Fall Guys update, meaning anything removed or added past November 14th will not be discussed in this video. In terms of round pool, this update is fairly light or heavy depending on what you like. In terms of Unity maps, Treat Thieves is gone and still can be found in custom lobbies, so there's no real way of playing the mode unfortunately. It's only appeared in the game selector during the month of Halloween, so it being removed is nothing out of the ordinary. However, no Unity level got unvaulted, but on the flip side, nothing got vaulted either. Knockout will no longer feature levels made by the community, but rather only creative and Unity levels made by Miratonic or Team Fall Guys. They introduced Creator Spotlight, a new mode which will feature, quote, some of the very best player-made creative rounds. End quote. This mode will only feature rounds made by the community and is in the style of Explore, allowing you to skip levels and automatically go into the next level upon completion, and in true Explore fashion, being able to play levels endlessly and only receiving rewards upon backing out. Creator Spotlight features 25 creator-made levels, 13 of them are points, 2 survival, and 10 course. I managed to play all 25 maps found in Creator Spotlight and I really enjoyed playing most of them. But first, let's quickly talk about Fame Pass 15. This pass is the first one to include emoticons or stickers as I like to call them, as well as phrases. And also something that's a first is that this pass doesn't have any wearables or single piece costumes, which is low-key kinda huge, cause every Fame Pass, and heck, every Season Pass used to have one. It's too early to tell, but maybe emoticons or phrases are going to replace single costume pieces, and I'll be honest, I was never a fan of these single costume pieces or half skins as I used to call them. Most of them sucked in my opinion, but some were decent, mainly the shoes and slippers. I don't really care about the stickers and phrases as well, as I don't use the social wheel all that much anymore. I stopped using emotes as well. Like flicking to the social wheel was sort of unintuitive. I don't know how people do it really fast and really consistently. It could be a boomer moment, but I genuinely liked it when you just pressed on the D-pad and you could use an emote or whatever. But I suppose the wheel is inherently better because you get way more options. It's just that I just find the wheel to be a bit clunky, but maybe I have to get used to it. I don't know. So the inclusion of emoticons and phrases in the Fame Pass is not something that I really care about, but if you like it, that's awesome. I cannot stop thinking about Mario's Rainbow Castle every time I see the Beanstalk skin. I've been playing way too much Mario Party Jamboree lately. Most of the full costumes look pretty nice. The standouts for me are Cerberus, Hoarfrost Hound, and Marble Moo. This pass came out on the 7th of November, which is the same day the update came out. And oddly enough, this pass was supposed to release on the 5th along with the 11.4 update, but got delayed for some reason. I think the pass is fine, not too bad nor too good, kinda in the middle. As a pass, it'll be remembered as the first one to give out emoticons or phrases, and the first one not to include single piece costumes. In this section, I'll go over my thoughts on every map I played in the Creator Spotlight, starting with Anti-Bubble Factory. This level has you needing to dodge anti-bubbles, which upon touching will make you lose points. The more time you spend, the more points you will gain, and that's basically the gist of the level. It starts out easy, but as the game goes on, it starts to spike in difficulty. More bubbles will appear, and at the halfway point, a block appears in the middle, making you move to the side and near some bubbles that you can jump over. I'll start out by saying that I love the way the level looks. It clearly takes inspiration from the Scrapyard theme, and the colors used mesh really well with each other. The stickers used on the wall along with the bolts holding everything in place is a nice touch. Even the background elements are well made. You can see some anti-bubbles rotating around, which adds some nice ambiance. I also love how there's a silver point in the background just chilling. It's not something you can collect unfortunately, but you can get a bronze bubble which gives out 1 point. The level lasts around 2 minutes. I'm not someone who plays creative levels outside of Knockout and Explore, although I don't play the Explore mode very much, and before 10.9 aka Fall Forever, I had to play Knockout once in a blue moon. So seeing a level that is basically an inverse of most points levels is honestly refreshing. It's also nice to have a level that is engaging, and also the breaks in between waves is a great way of letting beginners catch their breath. Miratonic adding the anti-bubbles allowed levels like this to exist and is all around a great inclusion that allows creative mode to be unique from its Unity counterpart. Although I will say once you've played the level a few times it does get a bit old as there isn't much you can do differently. Although the argument could be made that most levels actually do get a bit boring after a while, but I suppose most levels that don't really have much strats or different things you can do sort of get old really fast as there isn't really that much different ways of playing them, if that makes any sense. But either way, the level is solid and pretty fun. Up next is Baton Target, and as the name suggests, tests, you use a bat or rubber chicken in this case and try to smack the ball into one of the 3 targets. And it reminds me of those batting cages you would see in Japan. And I honestly wish we were in a cage, as it's pretty easy for someone to just grief you by knocking you off the stage. It does take a bit of trial and error to figure out the timing, and even then you might not be able to get it. Although a creative idea, this is one of those levels that's cute the first time you play it, but gets old super fast. Bowdened Bowling rules up next. First of all, giving credit to the guy who gave you the idea is a huge W, and if you do that, you are very attractive. I love the exterior design of the building, very gnarly looking. The colors used are great, which is a common theme with most of the levels featured. The level is basically bowling, but you're the ball, and it's that simple. The silver pins are worth 1 point, and the gold are worth 3. Fun fact, you're able to cheese the level by getting out of ball form and running around while going for gold. In terms of length, the level being short is awesome and very akin to actual bowling alleys. Overall, the level is mediocre at best, and I find its inclusion in a mode that claims to have the very best maps to be questionable. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the level, and I'm sure if I got an Explorer, it would definitely be one of the better maps I would get, but I find its inclusion to be a little odd. Let's talk about Chick City, which is one of 2 survival levels featured. The most amount of people I've had on this map is 4 max, but most of the time it's 2, and this level definitely would have benefited from more people because just nothing really happens for the first 30 or so seconds. Usually with levels like this, I love going on the offensive, otherwise it can get quite boring. However, with the map, the floor starts to crumble, meaning you can't stay in one place for too long, and if the other guy is throwing blast balls, you're forced to go on the offensive, which I like. And as a survival level, it's not really that unique, although it is quite hard to make a unique level with survival since all boils down to basically just trying to get the other guy to hit the slime first. So I can see why they only added 2 survival levels. If I play this map with more people and the floors start to crumble much sooner, I'm sure I would enjoy the map more, but as it stands, it kinda sucks. And part of it isn't even the fault of the map itself, just the mode only having like 4 people max, even though it says it can hold up to 10 people. Let's move on to Fall Adventure, the first course aka race map of the video, and it's a fairly straightforward and simple level, which isn't a bad thing. The structure as always is great, a bunch of small sections that have different ways of going through them, which is pretty typical of this creator's work, which I love. Though the decision to only include slime on the edges of the platform is an odd one, and it's something that I like, but it's whatever. I'm usually cautious about using any yeetuses since the 10.9 physics change, but thankfully this one seems to work just fine. A very fun level, which isn't saying much since Pin knows what they're doing. Flowing Leaf is the second and last survival level of the video, and I played this map 3 times and died on all 3 attempts. And for some reason, on my very first game of the level, I had died at the start, even though on my screen I was clearly on the leaf, which is odd. It could have been a connection issue. I guess the game thought I fell off the map even though on my screen I didn't. But on my second or third game, I did manage to make it a fair bit until I died thanks to this rotating beam section, which just felt sort of unfair, and you sort of couldn't come back if you had a bad positioning. You basically had to be at the very front of the board, or the leaf in this case, otherwise you would die. Either way, the level is fairly empty and uninteresting in my opinion. It's not really much to say. The decision to only include 2 survival levels is pretty crazy, but I can see why they didn't really pick that many survival levels, because most of them just boil down to just either being on a board or a leaf in this case, or just trying to knock the other person off with like a rubber chicken or a blast ball or whatever. Heck, even in Unity levels, most of the survival levels aren't that interesting, and the only reason they are is because they have things that actually, actively try to knock you off, like Stomping Grounds for example, or Snowball Survival. But I'm sure you could have found 1 or 2 more survival levels that were interesting, or you could have just added Jungle Cruise. That's actually a pretty good choice, and I don't see why they could have just included that, but it's whatever, I suppose. Frosty Runway is up next, and can I say, I love how they made the bumper and slams that look like ice. I was legit blown away when I saw that. I didn't know if you actually could just bounce on top of it, or could you actually slide on it. And I know you can slide on ice in Unity levels, but I just wanted to see that, oh, maybe it could be like an actual padded floor where it doesn't have any slime, so should I run on it, should I slide on it? I wasn't sure, but it's just, when I just found out that you could actually slide on it and it looked like ice, I was like, that is awesome, genuinely. And it just might be my favorite part of the level. This is one of those levels where it's always worth it to take the Yeetus and to just forget about the middle trapeze path. You're just better off taking the side path. This level really reminded me of Tundra Run, and its ending section just gave me Freezy Peak vibes. I do wish they somehow made the trench look like ice, and that would have been great. All in all, a well-designed level that's quite fun. But now, when I saw Gatling Gun for the first time, I legit thought they added a single cannon to creative mode. But no, this was handmade, which is just absolutely crazy, because it straight up looks like a normal cannon you'd see in the Unity levels. The map design is literally a circle. You need to outrun the cannon and jump into the hoop 3 times or just make 3 laps basically. I feel like making it 15 points is kind of pushing it. 10 points would have been great. The drums do make going around the map a fair bit faster, so it's not that bad, but the cannon design is absolutely mind-blowing though. I love it. Haunted Heights is basically a different take on Dizzy Heights. I'm used to seeing Lily Leapers and Slime Climb recreations, but Dizzy Heights, not gonna lie, that's pretty unique and oddly refreshing. The only gripe I have with the map is how you're supposed to get on the middle disc. Like, I've tried, but haven't been able to do so, and you're gonna hear me say this a few times, but for a mode that claims to have the very best levels, this one is pretty below average, but hey, at least it's short, right? When I saw Highwire Havoc for the first time, it was love at first sight. It could be the colors used along with the skybox, that being the medieval skybox, but it just looks drop dead gorgeous. There are 2 paths that you can take, the top path with the hyper tunnels or the bottom path. I've only managed to take the top path once and it was great. I do wish the speed boost was positioned at the start of the tunnel, but that's a minor complaint. Maybe it would have ruined the flow the creator had in mind. The top path have support columns, which does add a bit of logic and also helps make the map feel more chaotic, and is honestly how I describe the map overall. Although it is not the most chaotic looking map in this mode, but I'm getting ahead of myself. This is just one of those levels that when you're in the flow, it is super enjoyable, and I'm glad you can skip the trapeze at the end and just jump down to the finish line. Magma Diver has you going down a volcano and landing on the crown in order to qualify, and at first I was pretty confused on what to do, mainly on the section where you have to find the right hole to drop down on, but once I figured it out, the map was fairly straightforward. Thankfully the creator put a checkpoint, because it would have been annoying to drop back down every time you found the fake hole. I find the idea of the level to be interesting. I imagine this level would have been better if we had the Rising Slime game mode. Just imagine slime is pouring down from the sky and you have to get to the bottom as fast as possible. This is one of those levels that is fun to play once or twice, but after that the novelty kind of wears off in my opinion. However, a level I found myself hating at first but enjoying the more I played it is Pinfall. When I first played Pinfall, I was bumping into everything and just playing so bad. I couldn't even get to the skee ball section. It was just pissed off and rode the entire map off. However, after playing it a few times and understanding where to go and how the obstacles move, I started to enjoy the level. There's also another map I didn't like at first but changed my opinion on, but we'll talk about that when we get there. I will say the aesthetics of Pinfall is just jaw-dropping. My mind instantly went to Waluigi's Jamboree minigame in Super Mario Party Jamboree, because you're playing pinball in that one. The design of the map and the overall colors used might be my favorite. In terms of color usage, this level just might be my favorite. And as much as I hate the future skybox, it does really fit well with the theming of the level. I still wish they did 3D skyboxes for creative levels, but what can you do? Also, the makeshift Jumbotrons are just adorable, and I just love how they're well made. You know, I hope they add the Jumbotron into creative mode one day. I love this level, and it's definitely in my top 5 levels they added in this creator spotlight refresh. Red Hot Highway is up next. And at first I thought this level would be a lot longer, but surprisingly it's short, which is ironic considering its name. The level is structured pretty well, and the middle fast path does feel satisfying to take if you're going at the right pace. However, I don't have much to complain about. A pretty solid level. Ringside Reef is basically the baby version of Hoop Shoot. You jump dive through the hoops to get points. It's okay, I guess. We'll say the barrier with the coral on top is a nice touch, and it's basically what most players will see and not the digital skybox, making it sort of a pseudo skybox if you will. Not something I would add in a mode that showcases the best of the best, but it's okay I suppose. But now, Robo Junk Emporium is the most chaotic looking level in this refresh, and I just refuse to believe this was made with a 2,000 memory unit budget. This level really invokes a junkyard vibe and just making something out of scraps and just things that you just find out in like a scrapyard. It looks cluttered but focused. The different branching paths allow you to play this level however you feel fit, and the more I play this level, the more things I discovered, and I still feel like I haven't found everything. I will say the side path with the rotating platforms is a bit unforgiving and not worth taking, but it is optional, so okay I guess. In terms of looks and layout, this level is definitely up there in my opinion, and it's pretty easy to traverse all things considered. A very solid level. Roll Zone is rolling up next, and this combines a roll family of maps with points. There are 3 sections. First one gives 1 point, second gives out 3, and the last section gives out 5. And as you go further up, they increase in difficulty. At first I didn't like the map, but the more I played, the more I understood how it works, and the more I found myself enjoying it. The key is to stay in the middle zone, then go to the 5-point point area near the end, and honestly this is definitely one of the more unique point levels, and it's pretty enjoyable all things considered. There's no way Sawmill wasn't made with mods, unless it's some workaround to make things move side to side and up and down. This level really reminded me of Cosmic Highway, but less spacey and overall less difficult than Cosmic Highway. I like the aesthetics of the level, and it feels like you're in a factory. This is one of those maps I could have seen get featured in Knockout. It's simple enough that players won't have a hard time qualifying on, but I will say the level isn't anything to write home about. But god, Scramble Circuit is just my favorite level they featured in this refresh. I just love levels where you just go in turbo speed, and the only thing that I absolutely hate is the part featuring the Blizzard fan. It just ruins the sort of flow, it just ruins the speed. You can avoid it by taking the blaster, but sometimes if you're just at the wrong time, you're not gonna get on top of the blaster. I just love the level so much, I wish I got it more often. I haven't even mentioned how it's basically emulating Speed Circuit by having a lap system, even though you're using the point game mode, and it's absolutely just genius. It really shows how versatile the points game mode really is and how creative people can be. Scrap Scavengers was definitely made with a lot of players in mind, and unfortunately I've played this level with only one other guy, so the map is basically going in a loop for 20 seconds and qualifying. Disregarding everything else, the level is the same cookie cutter levels I would see in Explore, but it's more pretty. Definitely the weakest level in the roster. Another level that was made with a large group in mind was Spooky Bubble Fun. It's basically Bubble Trouble but spooky. I've played this level with maybe 4 players max, and I've managed to try out all the zones, but the waterfall one is really annoying to traverse. The one I like, however, is the rotating cylinder zone, as it's pretty easy to collect the gold points once you get the hang of it. Otherwise, the Blizzard fan zone isn't that bad either. I feel like having a low player count in the map isn't too bad as compared to Scavenger, but it definitely would have benefited from the added players. Spooky Climb is up next, and man, this refresh added quite a few Halloween themed levels. In terms of Halloween aesthetics, this map might be my favorite. It's fairly simple and straightforward, and this level would have been a great contender for Knockout during Halloween. The only section that I hate is the punching glove one. Sometimes I make it on the first try, and sometimes I'm stuck there for 20 seconds. Also, is it just me, or do some sections have like these sort of invisible walls? Like the one at the start, I can't get out on the spider web, which is just, I guess, a choice. I kind of wish they didn't try to block that section off. It would be really cool to actually, use the spider cobwebs to sort of take a shortcut. It's a really interesting choice to block off certain sections so they're only used for decoration purposes, but I will say the fake low gravity zone is just awesome. People have used Scaled Up Blizzard Fan to simulate low gravity before, but with the score zone, you can use it to emulate the look of low gravity. But overall, a simplistic level that nails the Halloween look and feel. Stun sliders really made me wish that water was something you could add to levels. It's a thing in the Unity maps, and it will make maps like this look so much better, because it just looks awful. Much like Roll Zone, the further you go, the more points you get. It's really cool how they covered the slime side completely, giving it the illusion of an actual water slide. The one good thing about this level is that you can play differently each time, which does add to the replayability factor. Other than that, I found the level to be pretty mediocre. Trash Pit Trials is up next, and I could have totally seen this in Knockout. Multiple branching paths make this map suitable for a number of players. Not super challenging, and it really leans into the scrapyard theming. I'd say this is better than Haunted Heights and is the more traditional Gauntlet levels we're used to, but to me it's fine. It's definitely one of the more weaker course levels, but again, as I said before, it is definitely better than Haunted Heights. Volcanic Track was a level that I hated at first, mainly due to how fast the slime is rotating, and I could never get enough speed when slide diving, but I will say I freaking love the blue color that's used for the volcano. The level is surprisingly short, and once you learn the timing, the level is fairly easy, but I can see why people might hate the level. And overall, I just found the level to be okay at best. Wasteland Wandering is the only level I've used a skip feature on. I did play the level a total of 3 times, and I did manage to qualify on it 2 other times. The section with the ball is what got me to skip the level. I'm sure there's some tech to it, but it's just so frustrating to use. Other than that, the level is fairly simple and straightforward. The section with you having to smack the ball into the wall to break it is pretty fun. Definitely my favorite part of the level. I don't know if I would put this in a mode that claims to have the very best community levels. I personally don't like the level very much. I'm sorry. I tried to like it, but it's just like the stupid ball section, man. It just pisses me off just thinking about it. Let's talk about the mode itself. With the Miratonic will no longer be featuring community-made rounds and knockout. Instead, they'll be featuring in Creator Spotlight. Since you can skip levels and the auto progress to the next level, I'm wondering, like, what is even the point of knockout? While this does affect Explore mode as well, at least with that mode, you can play a near infinite amount of maps, but with knockout, you only play the maps made by Miratonic. And while their levels have gotten way better, most of them usually play out the same way, as they can't go too extreme or different, otherwise they risk alienating the casual audience, which results the levels being too formulaic and boring. But sometimes we get gems like Circle O Slime, and the thing with Spotlight is that just by qualifying, you're earning something, whether that be shards or fame, and it being a lot more casual while showcasing a variety of maps you may have never seen before. And while you do earn fame by playing knockout, if you lose, you don't get a crown, which is the main reward. Plus, we have gotten 20 maps made by Miratonic since knockout became a thing. We have no idea how often Miratonic are going to update the round pool. In 11.4, they didn't add any new maps to knockout, whereas in 11.1, they did, and both are considered to be minor updates. With Creator Spotlight, we've gotten levels that would have never seen the light of day in knockout. It allows them to showcase, or well, put a spotlight on levels that break the stereotypical Fall Guys mold. I've said this a few times while describing the maps added in Spotlight, but claiming to have the very best player-made rounds when most of them are good and plenty fun, but some are just polished levels that I would see in Explore, like Scrap Scavenger for example. I feel like it would have been fine if they chose to say exciting and fun player-made rounds or something to that effect, because I'm concerned if these are what Miratonic consider the best. But you could argue that just semantics and what people consider the best is subjective, or what people consider to be fun and exciting is subjective. But when people think of the best, they think of like the creme de creme. But you know what I'm saying? But like when you say exciting and fun, it's like okay, whatever. Like this level could be exciting to somebody, or this level could be fun to somebody. But like when most people say the best, like they're expecting top tier stuff. And I'm sorry, but some of these levels, maybe even like I would say most, are just not top tier. But that is just my opinion on it. I could be completely wrong. I could have like pie in my face for saying that, but that's just what I think. That's just my opinion on that matter. But overall, with Creator Spotlight having the best aspects of both Explore, that being its features, and Knockout, that being the manual creation of maps, it really puts into question of what's the point in playing those modes. Creator Spotlight basically cannibalized both Knockout and Explore, and while we're at it, can we make Classic Explore into a permanent mode? Like clearly Miratonic doesn't care about modes cannibalizing with each other. You could say that would mess up the economy and make crowns worthless. First of all, I would like to say welcome back from your coma. Can't believe it's been 3 years. Did you know that you also cannot earn kudos from playing games either? Crazy, I know. But jokes aside, it is a decent concern, I guess, because it does trivialize the crown rank to a certain extent and makes it easy to progress through it. But I would argue the crown rank is more of a grind than a challenge, especially since they actually added 13 more tiers to the crown rank, even though they did add it to the lower part of the rank. But still, with being able to earn shards just by qualifying and it having no actual use outside of the crown rank, what's another mode where you can earn shards just by playing? And Classic Explorer, much like Spotlight and Explorer, gives out 5 shards per qualification. You will need to qualify on 12 levels in order to get 1 crown, and at that point, if you just care about grinding, just play Knockout or the classic modes at that point, because it will probably be less time consuming to earn crowns. Creator Spotlight is a wonderful idea, don't get me wrong on that, and some of the maps are awesome, but Miratonic needs to seriously consider increasing the budget. That is the only bottleneck. Doubling it to 4,000 would do wonders. They've been making some fantastic additions to creative mode lately, and the one great thing with Creator Spotlight is that they can increase the budget and not have to worry about levels in Knockout causing a ton of lag for lower end hardware like the Switch or mobile devices, since it will only contain maps made by Miratonic, whereas all the maps that may contain super high budgets will be in Creator Spotlight. And while it does suck for people who are hoping to have their maps added to Knockout, but I do think people appreciate it more in Spotlight, as that mode will cater to people who love or at least tolerate creative maps and want something that is different from the normal Fall Guys experience. Making it permanent is just weird and could end up jeopardizing the other creative playlists. However, at the same time, more options is great, and by separating the two, Miratonic won't have to worry about removing a level due to it being modded like Block Garden, or having to change a map from a finale to survival due to people complaining about difficulty, which will result in less stress for the Fall Guys team in the long term. In this section, I'll talk about some of the changes I was able to find. Do note, this section won't cover every little change, as I usually save those for my breakdowns. In the lobby, it now says to hold in order to open the wheel. We'd also get a new skybox, which is just the original or Legacy Season 1 skybox. Heading out to the locker, we can now customize emoticons and phrases, which makes sense since you can earn them from the Fame Pass and buy them in the store. Crazy to think that we would get a new cosmetic type after 4 years. Banners and nicknames were introduced in Legacy Season 2. They're definitely going to give away phrases and emoticons during challenge events, but I could see it happening during live events as well. They will probably replace patterns with emoticons and nicknames with phrases. Even though I never used the social wheels, this change might be my favorite. With this update, you're now able to fully customize the wheel, whereas before you could only swap out emotes, but now you can swap out your emoticons and phrases. Do you want your wheel to only have emotes? Well, now you can. Or how about a wheel filled with emoticons? Well, you can do that too. This was something I wish was introduced with the social wheel. Better late than never, I suppose. And as for bugs, I only found 2 of them so far. The bug in which the 3D background becomes black is still here. This bug was something I first discovered in the 11.3 update. Your character also has a blue and red outline. Also, the bug in where if you go into the classic games group and back out, some modes will show the yellow exclamation mark. This bug isn't new and something I found in the 11.3 update. Let me know if you found any bugs and changes in the comments below. The only change in creative mode that I could find anyways is that they added a custom color picker and they allow you to save up to 5 presets. You can even add hex codes, which is just incredible. With the color palettes being added in 11.2, I didn't think they would bother putting a custom color picker in, but I'm glad to be wrong. Color plays a undeniably huge role and it allows people to make levels that stand out for one another. I just can't believe when creative mode came out, we only had 4 colors, those being blue, magenta, purple, and yellow. I briefly mentioned how you can buy emoticons or phrases in the shop, and you might think they would cost kudos, but unfortunately, we live in a society, so they cost showbucks. 100 showbucks to be exact, which makes them the cheapest showbuck item if I recall correctly. I found this out through a comment someone left on a community post I made, as I don't really use social media all that much, and I'll be honest, when I read the comment, I wasn't surprised. 100 showbucks equates to less than a United States dollar if I recall correctly. This is just pure greed. But saying Epic Games is greedy is like saying grass is green or that the water is wet. I find it incredible how they've made kudos an absolutely worthless currency. Legacy players who have hundreds of thousands or even millions of kudos are just left with nothing to spend it on. I believe the last time they released kudos skins was back in August, and the last time they released single costume pieces that cost kudos was back in May or over 6 months ago. I suppose the one good thing about kudos being released like once a year is that players who may not have a lot of kudos have a chance of accumulating them, but at the very least they should just release some single piece costumes like once an update. It just sucks how all of them cost showbucks now. The decision to stop including community levels in Knockout is a sad one, as I'm sure there are some people who are hoping to have the levels featured there, but with Creator Spotlight, I think depending on how often they update the round pool and the quality of the levels chosen will make people flock to that mode and ignore Knockout altogether. And really to a certain extent, people might just start to ignore Explore as well. But I think people will still play there as a round pool for Spotlight isn't unlimited. You're going to eventually get bored of playing the same maps over and over again eventually. And while I think Spotlight is a wonderful inclusion, making it permanent is questionable, as it essentially cannibalizes 2 of your main modes. But what's even more questionable is making emoticons and phrases cost showbucks. Like they cost less than $1, like what is even the point? It's definitely going to be included in bundles as filler. What are your thoughts on the 11.4 update? Comment below and let me know. Thank you to our Max 2 members for your support as always.